Tonight, new reporting on the suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Sources say his alleged killer joked with friends on social media about the images authorities released. Vigils for Kirk held across the country as politicians increasingly cancel public events amid threats. We begin with the shooting suspect. The governor says he's not cooperating with investigators. How he allegedly spent the hours before he turned himself in. Authorities are now reviewing a group chat on a messaging platform. His alleged response to friends who said he looked like the shooter, and what we're learning about his roommate, plus the plans for Kirk's funeral and a host of tributes, including one at the Kennedy Center in Washington. How government officials are responding to the influx of threats, and the president seeks more money to boost security. Also tonight, a new show of force. Russia and Belarus hold joint exercises right on NATO's doorstep. President Trump threatens new sanctions, but only if NATO members stop buying Russian oil. Ukraine steps up its attack, striking a Russian oil refinery. The rare sight, a tornado on the ground in Utah, and the destruction of homes. Summer returns with temperatures in the 90s across much of the country. The U.S. puts renewed pressure on Venezuela, accusing it of supporting drug traffickers. F-35s are on their way to the region. The Navy stops and searches another boat off South America. Memphis, meanwhile, bracing for the National Guard. President Trump says he's trying to save the city, but the mayor pushes back, saying crime is already down. The massive anti-immigration protest in London, violent clashes, and what Elon Musk told the crowd. The first American-born Pope turned 70, and the stunning celebration, including drones over the Vatican. A high-stakes showdown on the court as the WNBA playoffs begin. And reaching for the sun, how clover went from a tiny seed to the Guinness Book of World Records.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. We begin with stunning new details on the investigation into the killing of 31-year-old conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The governor of Utah says the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, is not cooperating with authorities. Sources tell ABC News investigators are reviewing a group chat on a messaging platform between several people, allegedly joking that the shooter looked like Robinson, and where the suspect also allegedly says the killer is, quote, his doppelganger. Authorities say the suspect is seen here in the security camera footage driving through this Utah neighborhood and later walking on foot hours before the shooting. A big crowd paying their respects at a memorial at Utah Valley University as they mourn Kirk's death. And several NFL teams, including the Arizona Cardinals, honored the slain activist with a moment of silence. We have team coverage tonight. ABC's chief national correspondent Matt Gutman leads us off from Utah.
Tonight, Utah's governor says 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin who turned himself in, is not cooperating with the investigation.
He has not confessed to authorities. He is not cooperating. But all the people around him are cooperating.
Law enforcement sources say investigators are digging into messages allegedly sent by the suspect on a messaging app just hours after authorities say he fired that single fatal shot, killing Charlie Kirk in full view of thousands at Utah Valley University. The New York Times reporting Robinson allegedly joking that his doppelganger did it with a group of friends on the messaging platform. According to the Times, one user reportedly suggesting the group should turn Robinson in to get the $100,000 reward from the FBI. Robinson allegedly responding, "Only if I get a cut."
Well, all we can confirm is that those conversations definitely were happening, and they did not believe it was actually him. It was all joking until he admitted that it actually was him.
Authorities saying the suspect turned himself in after his father recognized him in the surveillance images and urged his son to come forward. Law enforcement sources say the suspect initially said no, but later changed his mind. Law enforcement saying they found shell casings with the messages, "Hey fascist, catch," another shell casing referencing an Italian anti-fascist folk song, and another unfired casing containing the message, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." Today, authorities confirming they've interviewed Robinson's roommate, with whom they say he was romantically involved.
His roommate was indeed a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female. That's information that the FBI had mentioned yesterday. We can confirm that as well, and that he is cooperating with authorities as well.
That roommate also allegedly telling authorities Robinson messaged about leaving the rifle in a bush after investigators say he scampered across that rooftop and then dropped down to the ground and jogged off.
And authorities say that suspect crossed the street from campus, just over there, walked up this drive into this wooded area, and somewhere around here, he stashed that rifle, wrapped in a dark towel, those cartridges still inside.
Social media shows members of Robinson's family included hunters and people very familiar and comfortable with firearms. And officials say that while Robinson had no military experience, he was proficient with a firearm.
About 175 yards from the podium to the shooting location.
175 yards. And would you have to be a pretty proficient marksman to be able to make it, given those conditions?
Given the environment, that type of shot is not easy. It's not what we'd call a super long distance, but in that environment, that is a pretty precision shot to pull off.
Now, 4 days after Kirk's death, memorials continue to grow on the UVU campus and outside the Turning Point USA headquarters. The organization announcing that Kirk's funeral will be next Sunday in Arizona.
And Robinson is being held here at the Utah County Jail. And officials are telling me they are sifting through a mountain of evidence, including his phone and his online presence. And earlier today, Lindsay, the governor of Utah, saying that the suspect was deeply involved in the online meme and video game culture, a place he called the deep, dark internet. Lindsay.
Backupman for us, Matt. Thank you. A number of American political leaders are facing serious security concerns after another act of political violence. As a result, some are scaling back public appearances. Let's get right to ABC's Jacqueline Lee in Utah. Jacqueline, what are you learning tonight?
Lindsay, both Republicans and Democrats having to confront the toll of political violence and the heightened security risk. The Trump administration requesting $58 million from Congress to increase security for the executive and judicial branches. According to multiple sources, the administration also supporting an increase in security for the legislative branch, but is deferring to Congress for implementation. Some lawmakers are proceeding with caution after the Kirk shooting, deciding to cancel events. For example, Republican Representative Nancy Mace, who is running for governor of South Carolina, telling ABC News she won't be holding any public events until they have a better handle on security. Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez rescheduling at least 2 planned events in North Carolina. Lindsay, the Utah governor calling for unity ahead of the upcoming election season. Lindsay.
Jacqueline, thank you. And tonight, some are facing backlash for criticizing Charlie Kirk after his killing. Employees of airlines, schools, and hospitals have been fired or disciplined for their reactions on social media. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is ordering staff to identify and discipline service members who mocked or condoned Kirk's killing. Now to the day's other headlines. A major show of force by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Russia is holding large joint military drills with Belarus on a scale not seen in years. It comes as President Trump is threatening new sanctions, but only if NATO members stop buying Russian oil. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang.
As President Trump threatens sanctions on Russia tonight, a major show of force by Vladimir Putin. For the first time in years, Russia and Belarus launching large joint military exercises. It comes as tensions are running high in Eastern Europe's skies. Romania scrambling fighter jets after a Russian drone flew through its airspace, the second incursion over a NATO country in less than a week. EU's foreign policy chief calling this another reckless escalation after Poland deployed their own fighters on Saturday over the threat of drone strikes in neighboring Ukraine. It was just days ago that more than a dozen Russian attack drones were shot down after violating Poland's airspace. Trump suggested the drone incursion could have been a mistake, but Poland insists it was deliberate. Some Republicans do too.
With all deference to the president, I don't think that was a mistake. I think Putin is testing the resolve of NATO.
And now Trump says he's again ready to impose tough sanctions on Russia, but only if all NATO allies agree to do the same and stop buying Russian oil.
And I'm willing to do sanctions, but they're going to have to toughen up their sanctions.
There's very little chance that those NATO countries that are still buying oil and gas from Russia will cooperate. This is, in a way, a bit of an empty threat.
Tonight, with Europe on edge and Ukraine launching a massive attack on a Russian oil refinery, the administration looks to confront and contain another crisis. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Israel meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. as Israel intensifies its assault on Gaza City and continued condemnation for that failed strike on Hamas leaders in U.S. ally Qatar.
Obviously, we were not happy about it. The president was not happy about it.
And Lindsay, the president has been spending the weekend here in Bedminster. Then he flies to Washington tonight ahead of his state visit to the UK. There will be a lot of pomp and circumstance, but our British ally is also expected to press the president on the Russia-Ukraine war. That summit with Putin last month in Alaska was billed as a step towards peace. But since then, Putin has only escalated the war. Lindsay?
Selena, thank you. Next tonight, tensions are escalating between the U.S. and Venezuela. On Saturday, 5 American F-35 fighter jets landed in Puerto Rico. The Trump administration says it's part of a major crackdown on drug trafficking. How Venezuela is now responding. Here's ABC's Christian Cordero.
Tonight, U.S.-Venezuela tensions are rising in the Caribbean Sea as 5 American F-35 fighter jets are seen landing in Puerto Rico this weekend as part of a military buildup. The Trump administration says the heightened presence is to crack down on drug trafficking. It comes as Venezuela's government releases this video it says is of armed U.S. personnel approaching a fishing boat Friday, moments before boarding and occupying it. A U.S. official tells ABC News Coast Guard members searched the boat to see if it was carrying drugs, but didn't find any. In its condemnation, Venezuela called the incident hostile and illegal, claiming it happened within the country's economic exclusion zone, which the U.S. denies, saying they boarded the vessel in international waters. It's the second dispute at sea in as many weeks between the two countries, after the U.S. military strike on a speedboat carrying 11 people from Venezuela. The administration claims they were cartel members smuggling drugs.
Venezuela has been a very bad actor, and we understand that. And when you look at that boat, you see the bags of whatever it is there. Those bags those bags represent hundreds of thousands of dead people in the United States.
And now Venezuela is conducting large-scale militia training, civilians volunteering to serve as reservists. President Nicolas Maduro urges all Venezuelans to prepare for an armed struggle if needed. As the rhetoric escalates, Lindsay, there are still many questions about that September 2nd boat strike. Experts have questioned the administration's legal rationale for attacking the boat, and it's still unclear who exactly was on it or where it was going. Lindsay?
Christian Cordero for us. Thank you. Next to President Trump's push to crack down on crime, he says he now plans to send federal troops into Memphis. But while the state's Republican governor is expressing gratitude, others are pushing back. More now from ABC's Faith Abube.
Tonight, Memphis bracing for a potential surge in federal troops as President Trump vows to send the National Guard to, quote, save Tennessee's second largest city as part of his escalating crime crackdown.
Memphis is deeply troubled. We're going to fix that just like we did Washington.
Trump so far offering scant details about the potential deployment, but writing on social media overnight that we're coming and promising a no-crime miracle in the city. Tennessee's Republican Governor Bill Lee thanking the president for providing federal resources, but the city's mayor pushing back, saying Memphis is already making progress on fighting crime. Memphis has historically had one of the highest rates of violent crime of any large American city. But according to city data this year, overall crime is down 44% and homicides have dropped nearly 30% since last September.
I did not ask for the National Guard, and I don't think it's the way to drive down crime.
For months, Trump has threatened to increase federal law enforcement presence in cities led by Democrats. He deployed the National Guard to Washington, D.C. last month, and the Army extended orders for federal troops to remain on active duty in the nation's capital through the end of November. But plans to deploy National Guardsmen to Chicago were met with fierce opposition, drawing condemnations from city and state leaders and sparking protests with thousands of demonstrators. Now, a leaked Pentagon memo obtained by the Washington Post reportedly shows new plans to activate 1,000 troops in Louisiana for law enforcement missions in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. The Pentagon has declined to confirm the report to ABC News.
And Lindsay, there are still a lot of questions tonight about the details of the plan for Memphis. The mayor says he has no clarity on when the troops might be deployed, how many could come, and exactly what they would be doing on the ground. Lindsay.
Still a lot of uncertainty. Faith, thank you. Overseas now to massive crowds and clashes in London. Tens of thousands gathering for a far-right protest on Saturday. It's believed to be the largest in decades. The event was organized by an anti-immigration activist. Let's get right to ABC's Lama Hassan in London tonight. Lama, what can you tell us about this demonstration?
Yeah, Lindsay, this was a massive show of support for the far-right anti-immigration activist Tommy Robinson organized a protest called Unite the Kingdom. More than 100,000 people marched through the streets of London on Saturday in one of the UK's largest nationalist rallies in years. A sea of British flags associated with English pride, some demonstrators clashing with police as they tried to get through a march against fascism counter-protest that drew about 5,000 people. Tech billionaire Elon Musk making a surprise virtual appearance, his latest inflammatory foray into overseas politics, telling the crowd to fight back or die, calling the left the party of murder, and saying the UK needs revolutionary government change. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer responding on social media, saying Britain is a nation proudly built on tolerance, diversity and respect. He said our flag represents our diverse country, adding that we will never surrender it to those that use it as a symbol of violence, fear and division. Lindsay.
Lama, thank you. Now to Pope Leo, turning 70 today. Speaking at the Vatican, the first American-born pope thanked those who prayed for him. In a new interview, he said he faced a huge learning curve as leader of the Catholic Church. Saturday night, the Pope attended the Grace for the World concert, co-directed by Andrea Bocelli and Pharrell Williams. The event was capped off by a spectacular drone show above St. Peter's Square. There's so much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday, including a mid-air scare, why a Delta jet had to make a sudden U-turn, and a rare tornado destroys multiple homes, plus the warm-up for millions. Next tonight, an arrest in the shooting of a police officer in Georgia. 26-year-old Timothy Ramsey was taken into custody Saturday evening. He's accused of shooting Captain Brantley Worley in the face on Friday near the Tennessee border. Worley is said to be in stable condition. A Delta jet was forced to turn around after a suspected bird strike. Flight 1399 had just taken off from Miami for Boston Saturday morning when the crew reported one of its engines had been struck. The Boeing 737 made an emergency landing back in Miami. Once the engine was checked out, the flight continued on to Boston. When we come back, the WNBA playoffs are underway. How the Fever played without Caitlin Clark. To the index now on a rare site in Utah. Tornado on the ground Saturday in the southeastern part of the state. The twister reportedly destroyed 3 homes. More severe weather is in the forecast across parts of the plains today, from Texas to North Dakota. And there's a big warm up this week in the central part of the country. Temperatures will be 10 to 15 degrees above average. The WNBA playoffs tipped off today with Minnesota crushing Golden State. And in a game you saw here on ABC, the Atlanta Dream pulled away in the second half to beat the Indiana Fever 80-68. The Fever, of course, missing its star Caitlin Clark, who's out for the year after suffering several injuries. When we come back, a record-setting flower and what made it so special for the man who grew it. Finally, one farmer's reminder tonight that sometimes the biggest growth comes from the smallest seeds.
Today is the day we're measuring clover for the Guinness World Records. All right, Clover, it's go time.
It's been grow time leading up to this moment as extreme gardener Alex Babish from Fort Wayne, Indiana, goes for the record for the world's tallest sunflower.
To grow the tallest sunflower and beat the Guinness World Record, it's as good as it comes for an extreme grower.
Clover stands nearly 36 feet tall. We're talking twice the height of the Lincoln Memorial, or comparable to a 3-story home.
I started it the last week of April, and after about 7 or 8 days, I transplanted the young plant into the structure.
Alex says over the course of 3 months, clover grew 10 inches a day, growing so high, so fast, he actually had to design a custom structure in order to support it, and then use a cherry picker twice in order to build the wooden structure up higher. Clover is what's called a multi-head sunflower. In bloom, her main head measures about 10 inches across. As Clover reaches up for the sun, Alex is mindful of his own roots, born and raised in Ukraine.
Sunflower is a national flower of Ukraine, so it's special to me.
Taking his love for and prowess in extreme gardening to new heights, creating a lasting legacy for the next generation.
Thanks for watching. I'm Lindsay Davis. Have a great night.
David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. And now, ABC's World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the third year in a row.